Guilty.
Guilty.
He is definitely guilty. Walter Buchanan never believed his life would end in tragedy. He grew up learning that emotions were weaknesses, that silence was safer than vulnerability, and that a man survived by holding everything inside. His father taught him these rules, not with tenderness, but with cold, rigid demands. Walter carried those teachings like invisible suitcases throughout his life, heavy, unexpressed, and waiting to burst. He built a good life on the surface, a respectable Scottish businessman known in East Ayrshire for being disciplined, private, and trustworthy. To the world, Walter was composed. To himself, he was a man quietly terrified of ever being seen for who he truly was. But when he met Anne, everything softened. She was sunlight, warm, open, expressive in ways he could never articulate. She laughed freely, touched him affectionately, and pulled him out of the shadows he'd been raised in. Their early years were full of small joys, late-night conversations, clumsy attempts at dancing, burnt dinners that ended in laughter. For a while, Walter felt safe enough to believe he had outrun the emotional barrenness of his childhood. But roots grow deep, and old wounds do not wait forever. As the years passed, Walter withdrew, not intentionally, not maliciously, but fear began to replace tenderness. Fear that if she saw how fragile he truly was, she would leave. So he hardened, and she felt it. The more she tried to reach him, the more he pulled back. The more she asked for emotional connection, the more he retreated into silence. Slowly, their marriage shifted, quietly at first, but unmistakably. Anne began spending more time alone, seeking conversation, laughter, connection, anywhere but with him. Walter noticed it instantly. Her smile changed. Her voice softened around others, but tightened around him. Her phone became a small shield she kept close. It was a subtle drift, but to Walter, it felt like betrayal. One evening, he overheard her laughing, really laughing at a message someone had sent. When he approached, she locked her phone too quickly. That single gesture ignited every insecurity buried inside him. He didn't accuse her that night, but something inside him began to unravel. He started checking her phone when she slept, reading her messages, picking apart every word, searching for hidden meaning. Most of the messages were harmless. Some sounded emotional. Some sounded confessional. And 3 sentences destroyed him. "I wish things were different. I can't talk right now. He's around. Tomorrow?" In Walter's mind, those short phrases became entire stories. Stories of betrayal, stories of abandonment, of a man being replaced. Fear turned into suspicion, suspicion into obsession, and obsession into a constant ache in his chest. Neighbors, without knowing the impact of their words, fueled the fire. Saw Anne with a bloke yesterday, didn't recognize him. A simple comment, a careless remark, but to Walter, it was confirmation of his worst nightmare. That night, he confronted her. She tried to explain. She tried to reassure him. She admitted she'd been talking to someone, but insisted it wasn't an affair. She said she felt unheard, unseen, untouched by the man she once adored. She confessed that she needed someone to talk to, someone who didn't shut down every time emotions surfaced. To her, it was transparency. To Walter, it was humiliation. Her words sliced him open, not because of what she said, but because she was right. He hadn't been present. He hadn't been open. He hadn't given her the emotional safety she had begged for. But instead of apologizing, he collapsed inward. Pride, fear, and shame fused into something toxic. He heard echoes of his father. If you show weakness, you lose everything. From that moment, every conversation with Anne became heavier. Their home filled with tension, unspoken accusations, and bitterness. Walter's mind kept spiraling, imagining scenarios worse than reality. One cold night, everything broke. Anne told him she needed space. She tried to step past him, exhausted from months of emotional tug-of-war. He blocked her path, desperate for answers, desperate for reassurance, desperate for anything that would quiet the storm in his head. Their argument escalated. Voices rose. Anne pleaded for him to calm down. Walter begged her to admit what he feared. She cried. He panicked. And in a moment of catastrophic desperation, one he would replay endlessly, he reached for her. What happened next was sudden, irreversible, and devastating. There was no intention, no plan, just a flash of uncontrolled emotion, a tragic eruption of every suppressed fear, every unspoken insecurity, every generational wound collapsing in a single instant. When the world settled, Anne lay still. Silence filled the home. Walter touched her face with trembling hands, pleading, shaking, whispering her name again and again, as if repetition could reverse time. But nothing could. When the police arrived, he didn't fight. He didn't run. He simply sat on the floor, staring at the woman he loved, the woman he failed, while the life he knew crumbled around him. News spread quickly. A respected businessman charged with killing his wife. A quiet Scottish community shaken. Jealousy believed to be the cause. Walter's identity evaporated overnight. Friends avoided him. Family distanced themselves. Strangers condemned him. Reporters painted him as a monster. In his holding cell, Walter felt every ounce of grief and guilt suffocating him. He replayed Anne's laughter, her tears, her voice calling his name every time he closed his eyes. He screamed into the darkness of the night, but even the guards ignored him. The trial was brutal. Anne's family wept openly. The prosecutor called him possessive, controlling, dangerous. Experts described the event as a violent outburst fueled by jealousy. Walter's solicitor could do little. The facts were overwhelming, the tragedy undeniable. Then Anne's sister took the stand. Through tears, she said, "I don't hate you, Walter. I'm heartbroken. We all are. But Anne loved you, truly. I hope you find healing, so this tragedy doesn't become meaningless." Walter cried. A full, unrestrained, broken cry, the kind he had never allowed himself as a child, a husband, a man. The letter continued. She wanted you to open up. She wanted the man she married to return. I hope you learn to forgive yourself someday. From that moment, Walter changed. Not to win parole, not to be liked, but to finally understand himself, to honor Anne, to reclaim humanity. He let go of pride, let go of denial, let go of the version of himself shaped by fear and silence. He learned to speak, to feel, to express remorse openly, to take responsibility instead of hiding behind excuses. Prison did not give him freedom, but it gave him clarity. It showed him the man he became and the man he needed to stop being. By the end of 7 years, the old Walter was gone. In his place was a man who finally understood the cost of emotional suppression. A man who saw how a lifetime of silence could destroy not just himself, but the person he loved most.